right, 10:13 here on your Thursday morning, and big breaking news here. It is official. 7 News now confirming Jon Lester is, in fact, shipping out of Boston. He is headed for the Oakland A's in a deal to include outfielder Johnny Gomes for left fielder Yoenis Cespedes there for the Oakland A's.
And so we have obviously been watching these trade rumors and these talks, and it was kind of the assumption that he would leave after he was scratched from yesterday's start. So we do want to bring in our sports director, Joe Amorosino, and he has just recently confirmed all of this for us. So I think, Joe, the first question I have for you is, what does this mean? We lose Lester, but we gain Yoenis Cespedes, one of the hottest hitters in baseball right now. What does that mean for the Sox?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe that you could do well in trading Jon Lester in the prime of his career when he's pitching as well as he's ever pitched, proven that he can pitch in Boston. He's going to be very difficult to replace here in Boston. You know, it all starts with pitching in baseball and ends with pitching in baseball. And to have to move Jon Lester, as the team has decided to do, is really a tough decision. But to get Yoenis Cespedes back, I mean, they were looking for an outfielder. That was their greatest need when you go outside of pitching. They're looking for a hitter to put in the middle of their lineup and beef up the lineup. Again, a great need that they've just satisfied. 28-year-old kid from Cuba who's come in to Major League Baseball and really taken Major League Baseball by storm. I mean, he won the home run derby 2 years in a row now at the All-Star game. He's certainly a stud when it comes to hitting. He's a righty, another right-handed bat for them. It makes sense in every possible way in terms of who they're getting back, but it's still going to be difficult to part ways and really to digest the concept of getting rid of Jon Lester, trading Jon Lester, for failing to be able to sign Jon Lester back in spring training when he was willing to take what he called a hometown discount.
Right. I mean, he was pivotal in 2 World Series titles. Joe, real quickly, as for Yoenis Cespedes, how long is he under contract?
You know, I don't know. This is his second major league year. I'm just kind of gathering information myself right now. I don't know how long he's under contract, but he's 2 years into his major league career, so I'm sure he's controlled for several more years right now, even though his age, 28, coming to the game from Cuba late, age-wise. But, certainly this was a chance for the Red Sox to put someone in the middle of their lineup, and someone I'm sure they intend to keep there for some time.
And so just to kind of gauge this here, right, Yoenis Cespedes, correct me if I'm wrong, he's one of only 2 players maybe in Major League Baseball history to win a home run derby 2 consecutive years in a row. I know Ken Griffey Jr. did it. So when you talk about bringing a big bat like that to offense here in Boston, I mean, in your opinion, do the Red Sox kind of win out in this trade?
Wow, that's a tough question. I mean, I don't know. I think whoever ends up with Jon Lester ultimately wins. But the Red Sox were going to lose no matter what they did right now. This could come back to haunt them from the standpoint that if Oakland were to empty up their pockets and really give everything they've got to re-sign him in the offseason, I really would have liked to have seen them trade him to the National League, to the Cardinals, to the Dodgers, to Pittsburgh, someplace where you wouldn't see him, someplace where he wouldn't come back to haunt you in the playoffs. Oakland's going to come back to haunt you if he stays there in Oakland. But I don't know how much better they could have done in terms of a straight trade right now, trading Lester, really with no guarantee that he's going to re-sign in Oakland. At least we haven't heard that he's guaranteed that quite yet. Moving Johnny Gomes in the process right now to bring in Cespedes. So, I mean, I take the deal. It could have been a lot worse. They could have been getting back 3 prospects we've never heard of that could have never really panned out. So I'd say we'll call this a win right now. How's that?
Calling it a win, but yeah, that's right. I mean, when you do have to face him again, that's certainly something to think about. Now, here's my other question is, when we're looking at the Red Sox, we're looking at trading a starting pitcher. Is part of the reason you think they were able to let a guy like Lester go, is this because of this young talent that we have right now in Pawtucket?
Well, they certainly have some young talent. It's still very much unproven right now. But, really to back up, Lester comes into the final year of his contract. He is one of the game's best pitchers right now. He's left-handed in the prime of his career. He goes into spring training, and the Red Sox wanted to sign him then before he entered this last year. They don't want to see a player like Jon Lester go to free agency because there's always someone out there who's going to overpay. And they had made the decision they were not going to overpay. He says he's going to take a hometown discount. So for Jon Lester, really an elite pitcher in baseball, these guys all make over $20 million a year, and he would expect somewhere in the 5 to 6 year range. The Red Sox offered him 4 years for a total of $70 million. Had they offered him, say, 5 years at $20 million, I believe he would have jumped at that. Maybe even up to the last week or so, he may have jumped at that. But it got too far along in the process, and it was imminent that he would end up going to free agency, where someone like the Yankees, who you have to face, 19 times a year, could step in there and give him upwards of $30 million a year. They were in a position where they would rather get something for him now than watch that happen. And taking all that into consideration, and if you can move past the decision they made not to keep him, they did well in this trade.
Right, and we, of course, had the trade deadline bearing down 4 o'clock today. There was news, Joe, as well, that there was a potential deal with the Orioles on the table as well, that fell through prior to this. I think a lot of times when people think of John Lester, they think obviously of the pitcher, but also the person. I mean, his story, the fact that he battled cancer, lymphoma, that was roughly 5 years ago. I mean, he has quite a story as well himself personally.
Yeah, indeed, and Red Sox fans have quite an attachment to him, going back to 2007 when he came up and won a game in the World Series. As a young pitcher, comes back, gets in a minor car accident, felt some back pain, realized that he had lymphoma, and battled through that, came back. We watched him put the weight back on and become one of the game's best power pitchers once again. And then, I mean, the guy's 3-0 in the World Series with an ERA under 1. I mean, he knows how to pitch when the pressure's on. He knows how to pitch in Boston, which really means something. When they start looking at other pitchers to bring in here, and you'll hear all about it beginning today and straight through November when free agency kicks in, you're going to hear names, and they're really, most of these guys, they're not proven here in the AL East. It's tough to pitch in the AL East. It's tough to pitch in the American League, and Lester's proven he can do it all. So he's truly a proven commodity. He's going to get paid.
Clearly, and we're getting in some news here, JR. It looks like Yoenis Cespedes' contract is up in 2015. So that's some news that we're just getting in. So does that change your opinion in how this goes?
No, the Red Sox absolutely have the means to re-sign any player they'd like to. Here we go again, though. Cespedes will be 29 years old when his contract's up. How far are they willing to go with him? So we may be in this situation all over again.
Yeah, it seems like the argument a lot is for years. Baseball players, they want to make sure that their career is watched over as they age and as they get older. And not to overlook Johnny Gomes in all of this either. While I know we're talking a lot about how important the starting pitching is, but from a fan perspective, I know especially with the World Series win last year, Johnny Gomes was really the face of a lot of that emotion coming from the Red Sox.
Yeah, he was no doubt a real big personality during that run last year. He and Mike Napoli with the Beards, among others, but were always providing some entertainment, a lot of emotion. Gomes has played in a lot of places, including Oakland before, where he's had success. He, the story with Gomes is wherever he goes, those teams seem to win, and Gomes seems to take credit for it, even though his stats don't really back it up. And he's someone that when times are good, he's pretty funny, and when times go bad, he can be pretty annoying. And I'm not saying that his teammates feel that way. I'm just saying, the fan base, and if you read his quotes, that's the way he's received from market to market along the way. But, he really wins out in this deal, too. He gets to go there and compete for another winning team.
All right, 7 Sports Director Joe Amorosino, thank you so much. Obviously confirming today's big breaking news here in the sports world, Red Sox Nation. John Lester headed out of Boston. He's going to be going to the Oakland A's in this deal, which also includes, you heard Joe mentioning, Johnny Gomes. And in return, the Red Sox get Yoenis Cespedes, the left fielder who has won the home run derby twice in a row, just a power hitter, and a big acquisition here for the team.
And so, of course, we're gathering all this information. We had thought that perhaps John Lester would get traded. He was scratched from his start earlier this week for the Red Sox, and we all wondered, was this the last time that we will ever see him in a Red Sox uniform? You're watching right now on our air. This is Yoenis Cespedes winning the home run derby this last year. Again, the second year in a row, one of only 2 Major League Baseball players, in my understanding, to do that, coming right after Ken Griffey Jr. So as you look there at John Lester, he is now headed to the West Coast. We do want to bring in Rob Bradford with WHDH.com, and he is our sports expert, one of the first to break this news here today for us. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
All right.
How are you?
We're well. How are you doing?
Oh, man, it's going to be a busy day, but I guess this is a good way to kick it off, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you're trying to sort of digest everything that's happening, I think a lot of people assumed that John Lester would be traded, but to lose Johnny Gomes as well, and then what we got in return, I think has a lot of people surprised. I mean, we didn't just get a no-name here.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a surprise because everyone is focused so much on the prospects, and this is a guy who obviously is major league ready. And typically, when you make a trade like this at the trade deadline, you don't get this because the team making the trade is in it and is using that player to win, and that's exactly what Oakland's been doing. But Oakland knows that Cespedes' contract runs out after next year. They probably don't want to take that chance. They feel like they have a better chance at winning with a Johnny Gomes in outfield, even though it's a downgrade, and John Lester on the mound. So I tell you what, I was surprised. I heard about something like this yesterday, and I got to be honest, I kind of dismissed it because I didn't think that Oakland would be in and on it as much as they were, but I was wrong.
Right, and we had the Pirates, the Blue Jays, the Cardinals, and also the Orioles. We had heard, obviously, Rob, this morning that there was a deal on the table with the Orioles. That fell through, it sounds like, last minute.
Yeah, I think the Orioles thing was just one of those things that it was an evolving type of thing. It was something where the Orioles were out as of a night ago, and then I think they rekindled things a little bit. But I don't think it ever got nearly as close as some of the other teams. I think even the Pirates. But you look at this Oakland deal, and it's really fascinating because, again, you usually don't get a major league ready player back like this at the trade deadline. And for them to say, we're not going to focus on prospects. We know we need a power hitter. This is the guy that we're going to take back for John Lester, which is obviously a big PR hit, even though he only has a couple of months left on his contract. So it's a fascinating trade for me.
And on that PR hit that you're just talking about here, does this trade, does that leave a bitter taste in John Lester's mouth? Because I know some people are speculating, that the Red Sox, they could actually still sign him again next year, right?
Yeah, I don't think it leaves a bitter taste in John Lester's mouth because he knew this was coming. He knew the dynamic. He knew that a contract agreement was never going to happen. I think some people are frustrated, including people within that clubhouse, that a deal wasn't done with John Lester back in spring training, when you really could have gotten a deal done.
Right.
So that's the frustration. Mm-hmm. So I do think that I think that John Lester knew it was coming. He accepted it, and hey, he could re-sign with the Red Sox. I wouldn't count on it, but there's always a chance, I guess.
Right, because he's a free agent at the end of this year. In fact, that's funny that you mentioned that as well, because that was some of the talk around here. Like, he could come back, but it seems pretty far-fetched, right?
Yeah, well, the fact is that if the Red Sox were going to put their best foot forward in a contract offer close to market value, they probably would have done it before the deadline. And now you get into free agency, which will be the case with John Lester, and everything gets more expensive. And to think that the Red Sox are going to approach what another team will pay for a John Lester, I don't think is realistic. As much as he'll take a little bit of a discount, I just don't think it's realistic that they're going to come close in the free agent market.
Right, you got to get something for him now before you get nothing, it sounds like.
Absolutely.
All right, Rob Bradford from WEI, thank you so much for joining us. I can hear the excitement in your voice. You've got a day ahead of you, my friend.
Well, it's a lot of caffeine that I knew I had to take about 7 o'clock this morning, so.
Oh, man, these guys live for these days, right?
Yeah,
big news here today around Red Sox Nation and really around New England here. So once again, John Lester headed out for the Oakland A's in this deal, and Yoenis Cespedes, left fielder for the Oakland A's, now headed here to Fenway Park.
And so we'll, of course, bring you more on this today at noon. We've woken up Joe Amorcino. We've got our sports team getting all the latest information that they can from Boston as well. So John Lester and Johnny Gomes headed to the West Coast.
All right, we'll have a full wrap-up today on 7 News at noon. For now, we'll send you back to the Today Show in New York.